What's up everyone, Kaze no What If is here with What If a Soul was sent into Naruto verse. Before we start, if you like the video, like it, share with your friends, comment, and let's start the video. Konan opened her eyes and groggily sat down. She felt Ari's hand in hers, squeezing it gently, and her cheeks reddened. She looked at Ri and saw his peacefully sleeping face. His older face. She didn't know what gripped her, but her heart fluttered at the sight and she wanted to be with him. She wanted to. Ri opened his eyes only to see an older form of Konan looking at him with an expectant, gentle, and loving gaze. He also saw a flicker of love in her eyes but wrote it off as his wishful thinking. "Hello," Konan quietly whispered. "Good morning, Konan." Ri yawned and rubbed his tired eyes. It was then that both of them remembered what happened How much did they sleep? Hour? Day? Week? The duo looked at each other awkwardly until Ri shrugged. "No need to worry about it anymore. It happened." Konan nodded and quickly pecked his lips, leaving him staring at her, completely flabbergasted. "I love you, Ri," she told him cheerfully. Ri didn't even manage to process what he just heard, but his heart moved his lips for him. "I love you too, Konan." They continued to smile at each other. "Well, we should probably start training." Ri rubbed the back of his head and redirected his stare to the ground, beet red. Konan agreed, as she also couldn't help but look towards her fumbling hands with crimson cheeks. The duo distracted themselves with running, sparring, and training their chakra natures for the day. The evening quickly came and both Ri's and Konan's feelings were already calm. They knew what they felt for each other. They also knew they would eventually end with each other. It was inevitable. That was what their minds and hearts were telling them. But neither of them was ready for anything more than a peck on the lips. No matter how explorative they felt. They instead channeled the energy into the training, and thankfully it helped. With a calm mind, Ri remembered why he made the linking seal in the first place. It's such a pity the seal didn't help you feel the nature energy. Oh. Konan stopped nibbling on her jerky and gulped down what she had in her mouth. "But I somehow sense the world differently now." "What?" Ri looked at her bewildered, and then a theory appeared in his mind. What if he started to conduct many tests and told Konan to do many things and tell him how she felt, and found out a very staggering result? Konan had a more diluted version of his godly nature attunement talent. She could sense nature chakra, but then, "Konan, quickly look at your chakra control." Ri giddily jumped up and down. Konan nodded and a few seconds later squealed. "It's almost perfect." In the excitement, she smashed her lips to Ri's, and the kids kissed for a few moments. As they separated, Ri gently patted bashful Konan. "Kissing is okay," he told her in a whisper. Konan raised her head hopefully, her eyes met his as she chewed on her lower lip. "But nothing more than that." Konan nodded profusely in happiness and pecked Ri again. "Now, will you tell me what exactly changed with your chakra control?" Konan's face morphed to seriousness. "I need a lesser amount of chakra for better effect. I can better circle it. I became better at manipulating it. And I have 5 times the chakra I had before, but my control is even better than it was." Konan finished unsurely, and Ri's eyes widened as he instantly felt his own chakra. He also had 5 times the amount of what he had before, and his control stayed the same. It was still perfect. A lopsided grin appeared on his face. "Well, Konan-chan. Looks like we are on the level of Lochanin with chakra amount." REI exclaimed giddily, and Conan instantly hugged his torso in happiness. REI smiled at her and thought, guess that means a somewhat diluted version of his supreme chakra control. Check. After a few moments of relishing their fast growth by patting Conan's head, REI took a deep breath. Now, the last one. REI took the storage scroll he first learned on and gave it to Conan. Conan had slight problems with reading and kanji, but REI did his best to teach her during the year they were together. She knew enough. As she saw the seal and read through the kanji on it, Conan blinked at REI. I understand it? She whispered to herself. Conan tried to imitate REI and learn how to do exploding tags. Even with REI's help, she has still been dubbed a godly klutz talent when it came to seals by REI. It had nothing with her penmanship or knowledge. She had a natural problem or predisposition to fuck up infusing her intentions with her chakra. It was something that could not be taught by anyone to her. Conan already accepted she will never learn anything fuinjutsu related unless she spends supreme effort, resources, and time. And even then she would need teachers, books. She just gave up and decided to focus on her futon. But now she looked at the seal and knew. She knew what she did wrong previously. Her mind as if clicked and she was able to. Oh, God. She was able to, she knew how to do seals. Conan shrieked in happiness, and REI found himself toppled to the ground as Conan rubbed her head on his chest. Huh, sealing talent. Check. He mumbled as he tried to regain his breath. Well, now you will be able to produce your own explosion tags. He quipped and enjoyed the childish pout on Conan's face. REI pinched her cheek with a heartfelt laugh, making her pout more. With a long muyu, Conan nibbled her lower lip in embarrassment. Wait. You now feel nature energy, right? REI asked for a confirmation. Conan tilted her head in confusion. The energy that is not chakra in the air, plants, everywhere, really. Focus on it. Don't take any of it into your body but make her senses perceive it. Conan nodded and did as REI told her. She smiled wide when she could feel the world around herself. It was just so beautiful. She never thought the dull, gray, and rainy world could be so gorgeous. Her hand squeezed REI's. It's beautiful. Conan hugged REI. Yes. I guess it is. He chuckled. Now. Up to learn how to hide your chakra? Conan nodded enthusiastically. REI started to explain the principles about coating yourself with nature energy, wearing it as clothes around your chakra, and Conan was nodding from time to time. Then her mind started focusing on the energy around her and she tried to manipulate it. Muyu, I cannot move it. She complained. Haha, just keep trying. REI encouraged her while making sure to move more nature energy closer to Conan to make it easier for her. His giddy mind had only one thought and it brought him joy from the future possibilities. Guess that really meant she had a lesser nature talent attunement. Novel in Naruto, Reborn with Talent Chapter 12, ch 12. Tree. It's fake, well, figures. In Naruto, Reborn with Talent C12, ch 12. Tree. It's fake, well, figures. It took Conan 3 days to learn how to move the nature energy around. In that time REI found out their bodies were strengthened quite a bit and could now crack the bark of a tree with his punch. He also managed to coat a kunao in the lightning chakra, making the chakra vibrate at high speed for better sharpness and penetrability. He now trained with a Chokito Hiskaven dash, a hem, found lying on the ground without an owner. Correction, without an owner who would care. He could only slash and slash again since he knew nothing about Kenjutsu, but slowly, he found out when and where to put more strength and how to handle the sword. Even if it was just waving it around. The second he added lightning chakra, it became a deadly weapon even without any skill with it. Rei, Rei. Konan approached Rei, a question all over her face. Do you know if I could coat my paper in the nature chakra to make them also invisible to chakra sensors? Rei's mind stilled. Possible, but... He instantly held his Chokyato in front of him and coated it in his lighting chakra. Konan. I am going to do something possibly stupid. Rei smiled brightly at her, making Konan want to smack him. Rei pulled the raw nature energy and fed it into the Raiten chakra without having it go through his body. The lightning instantly grew, the chirping sound was now ferociously reverberating through the woods and the ground under the blade of his Chokyato was cracking every time a stray lightning bolt struck it. The most surprising was the color though. The lightning was pure abyssal black. Not like the one used by Third Raikage or Darui. That could be described as light black. This was the blackest of black and Rei had to gulp as he felt the danger from it. He instantly ceased channeling the nature energy and the lightning simmered back into a controlled blue coating around the blade. He nodded to himself. Yes. It is very possible, all right. He told Konan and praised her for the idea with a head pat. Kana smiled and put a paper on the ground, taking a few steps away from it in case it had a dangerous reaction. In hindsight, that's what I should have done. Rei thought with a sweat drop. Konan started channeling the raw nature energy into the paper. It was messy and half of her chakra mixed with the nature energy and was absorbed by the ground instead of the paper. But the paper was now simmering with the wind, pulsing with sharpness. It was no longer just a coating of blue futon chakra. It was a translucent wind-like coating that looked extremely sharp. Konan flung it into the nearby tree and both Rei and Konan were gaping. The paper was so fast it was hard to follow. Moreover, it didn't pierce through the tree as expected. It completely felled it into two pieces on impact and went on, felling 10 more trees behind it until the futon chakra dissipated, making the nature energy disperse. Rei looked at Konan and patted her head with a sigh. Demolition Master, indeed. Then his eyes fell on the spot where Konan channeled the raw nature chakra mixed with her chakra into the paper. His jaws dropped again. He yanked Konan towards the place. Konan was confused. She was full of ideas on how to use her new findings to decimate Rei's enemies. What could be so important he had to interrupt her? She was on the verge of doubting. But when she saw a small budding sapling slowly growing out of the place the paper was previously on, she tilted her head. Mokyutan. Rei watched the sapling stop growing when it reached 4 feet because of insufficient chakra. What did you do? His head snapped to Konan who nervously fumbled with her fingers. I mixed my chakra with the nature energy and wanted futon chakra. Konan trailed off, not knowing if she did something wrong. Of course. Rei slapped his forehead and started to laugh hysterically. You have wind prevalent with earth and water secondary. You just pushed your earth and water natured bits that were still mixed with raw nature energy to the ground while leaving the futon mixed with nature energy in the paper. He still chuckled as he explained what just happened and started to mix an entire fifth of his chakra with nature energy and pushed it deep into the ground. Konan and Rei had to jump away as a tall thick tree quickly rose from the ground. It was not a giant tree that could be found in Konoha, but it was still a full-grown tree. Oh, well. Looks like I gained a Keki I Genkai too. Even if it is a fake one. Well, figures the Mokyutan is not really a Keki I Genkai of Senju. Instead, it is their attunement to the nature chakra, and Hashirama just mixed his elemental chakra with nature chakra. He was supposed to be an incredible sensor, after all. Rei chuckled. The only Mokuton reproduction is through his cells. Yup, it makes sense since his body would get used to channeling it. Rei? Conan asked, not understanding as he mumbled to himself. Listen, Conan. This. Rei explained. He explained about Hashirama Senju. The Senju clan. Konoha. And how dangerous it would be to show anyone this ability. Conan furiously nodded. She had no intention of going to Konoha. Konohanin killed her parents. She still held a grudge. That's why when she found out it was Konohanin attacking the town, she may or may not have used more exploding tags than she should and made sure lots died. But Conan was sure Rei noticed. After all, he was creating these tags. She was happy when he decided to say nothing about it. She really loved Rei. We will have to train earth and water manipulation. Rei sighed. Thankfully my absolute control means that unless I mean it, no tree will grow no matter how much chakra and nature energy I push into the ground. Really now? I would never know I could do this without a coincidence like this. Rei started chuckling again. It was quite hilarious. He wondered how many Senju actually were able to do Mokuton only to fail at the most basic of things. Intent. They unconsciously didn't believe they could, since not once during childhood they unconsciously raised a tree. So, no tree was ever created by them. Conan never heard of Mokuton, so for her creating the tree was nothing extraordinary. It was a huge mind-opener for Rei if nothing else. Well, you Conan will have to train hard to not unconsciously call forth trees. Rei patted her head with a proud smile, making Conan happy. Your control is pretty much ironclad, but mistakes do happen. We will work on it, K. Rei kissed her cheek, determined to train water and earth control alongside Conan. A week later, Conan sat cross-legged with a serene smile on her lips and her hands outstretched to the sides, her elbows bent toward the ground, and above her palms, a paper floated. On her right one was a paper brown as earth, a clear side of mastered beginner exercise for earth nature, and on her left was a paper soaked, dripping cold water onto her palm. For 2 hours straight, the water didn't stop dripping from the still to the brim soaked paper. A clear sign of beginner level mastery of water manipulation. Rei could only sigh as he sullenly watched the soaked paper in between his palms. Yes, yes. I managed only one nature in 7 days. Fuck you too. He thought depressingly. He could not fault Conan though. He knew what his problem was. He might have all natures, but Conan was unconsciously using earth and water chakra since she learned how to harden her paper or make it not become soaked underwater. From there, it took only slight tweaks to master the first exercises of elemental mastery. Yet again, the superiority of the elemental Keki Genkai holders was thrown into his face. They just could, so they did. They instinctively knew how to do this after using their Keki Genkai long enough. No wonder they could reach far ahead of the normal ninja. Their minds were geared to master their own element in the quickest time possible. Rei was sure this was not the only time Conan would overtake him in wind, earth, or water. But he knew she had nothing on him in lightning and most likely fire too once he started to train it. Rei, on the other hand, had to do the entire process by ear from start to the end, and even then it was possible only due to his exceptional control. But if a normal ninja saw him complaining about mastering the first exercise of his element in a week, he would choke on his blood. People train years to do so. Show menu. Konoha Hospital, Tsunade's office. Tsunade reminisced with a bottle of sake about her recent time in Konoha, on the verge of a breakdown. Tsunade returned to Konoha a week ago and a lot of things have happened since then. First of all, she and her teammates were hailed as heroes for keeping Hanzo at bay during the clash of the AIM and Konoha army, leaving AIM's military in quite the precarious state. Tsunade could see the proud smug look of Jiraiya as he eyed big-breasted females with apparent lust as if he was about to choose which pouch is the right one to stick his kunao into. Tsunade found it gross. And they wonder why she never fell for such a gallant figure. Tsunade loved Jiraiya as a friend. But a lover? She would rather commit seppuku. Oh, she couldn't even remember the number of times Jiraiya asked her to scratch the itch when they were in the field together. Tsunade had her urges too as every self-respecting 20-plus years old woman, but Jiraiya? Really? Bleh. Her status as a kunoichi from the Senju clan made her shielded from receiving seduction missions, and she was not about to give her virginity to anyone. Much less a pervert who sticks himself to every hole he finds on the road. Unlike the general population of shinobi who are informed that yes, chakra indeed does prevent them from getting a venereal disease, she was one of the best medicnen in Konoha. She knew better. Chakra was not omnipotent. But it was her pride. Most of her academy year classmates already lost their purity years ago. Some of them as young as 12. It was a sad thing, but the current reality. Tsunade was pure. She just was not innocent. Not since she plunged a kunao through the throat of a bandit on her first C-rank mission. And she will never regret it? Not for a second. She had to sigh when she spotted that even Orochimaru's lip was twitching upwards at the praise they received. She was disappointed. She thought him smarter. To be honest, this was the first really big achievement for her teammates. Jiraiya is good at spying and sealing and Orochimaru at research and jutsu. Not really something Konoha lacked or something that could bring them fame. This was the first time both orphans of her team were under the limelight since Sarutobi-sensei took them under his care. Her. Not so much. She was Senju. Always praised, coddled, where she went people treated her like a princess. And it was great. Until she was 6. Since then it has become utterly annoying. So, when she came from Suna front after she single-handedly pushed Konoha forces into a victory, and received the praise, Tsunade was apathetic to it. Instead, she remembered all the blood that flowed through her fingers. All the blood of her allies. Those she couldn't save. Sad sight, but the current reality indeed. The exact same thing as she was experiencing now. What? Heroes. What? Held Hanzo long enough to win. She was not a stupid idiot. She saw the man completely fine after the fight with them and their summons. He let them go and even gave them a disparaging title for it. Yet, her teammates took it as praise. Idiots. They couldn't even notice when they were being mocked. Tsunade couldn't, no, didn't even want to count how many times she had to use her experimental technique, creation rebirth, and how much life force she was forced to use. Tears streamed down her cheeks every time she realized that one fight cost her 50 years of her life. 50 years in exchange for saving her teammates and herself from a continuous lethal dose of salamander poison. No matter how she pleaded, her teammates refused to retreat. Were Jiraiya and Orochimaru even worth it? Jiraiya took 30 and Orochimaru took at least 12 years from her. Her body was freaking 70. Only her medical transformation and the vitality of Senju kept her looking the same or her performance from dropping. Nobody even realized. Sensei was too busy being Hokage. Orochimaru had his research and wanted recognition. He was already on a mission with her brother. And Jiraiya? He didn't care. He would soon leave again to aim in order to train 3 orphans. The idiot thought he finally found his chosen one. Oh, why does he have to sound so much like Orochimaru when he starts to talk about finding a prophesied little boy? Tsunade quietly sobbed into her arms, as the bottle fell onto the ground, spilling the contents. Unknown to the Sunin, their breakup was set in stone in the exact battle they received the title from Hanzo. Their medic was forced to do too much for the team. Too much sacrifice to keep 2 childish idiots alive. Neither Jiraiya or Orochimaru were yet the fabled incredible Sunin from canon. Tsunade just couldn't. 50 years. She was well aware of what that meant for her. It meant Nawaka was the only one who could restore the Senju clan. She never cared for it. But this was one blow too many for Tsunade. Orochimaru may be a poison expert, but he was completely out of his league when it came to rare salamander's poison. She only had to use 8 years of her life to keep herself alive through the poison thanks to her medical expertise and various drugs in her system. 42 years were squandered through Katsuya to a white-haired idiot who cared only about fucking whores and to a research-addicted just a crazed smug bastard. Not even a single meaningless thank you. Tsunade was a realist. And the reality was, Hanzo could single-handedly fuck up the entirety of Konoha Force. Tsunade really doubted even the god of shinobi Hiruzen Sarutobi would come out of that fight alive. Hanzo was indeed a ninja from the generation of her grandfather. It showed, alright. He could make a bloody smear out of the Konoha shinobi force and wouldn't even need to approach. His poison was better than anything Suna could ever come up with. It's just, he found it more amusing to play with the pupils of the current god of shinobi. They did not fight a war with IWA in aim. They were allowed to fight a war with IWA in aim. A very distinct difference. Tsunade only hoped a Megakure didn't join the fight. She had enough of meeting Hanzo for one lifetime. She would most likely not survive another. Tsunade snorted when she realized she was a 70-years-old virgin. It actually brought quite the humor into the entire situation. Her eyes trailed to Nawaka's photo and a charming smile spread through her face. As long as Nawaka survives, the clan can still go on. I am not needed anymore. She sadly noted, but was happy it was that way. No forced marriage to recreate the Senju clan. No political schemes. No, she was now supposed to live her remaining life in the hospital, helping the village. She chuckled as she remembered that discussion with her sensei. Telling the man she was now physically older than him. Both had to get drunk under the table. Hiruzen because she was apparently his first choice as successor, and Tsunade because she just didn't want to have a mental breakdown in front of her sensei. Tsunade of course tore him a new one. Spending her life in the hospital. Ha! As if. Tsunade remembered the spike of nature energy. Yes, she flipped through the books of her grandfather and was surprised when the sage arts, the thing Jiraiya was so enamored with, were a chakra-diluted form of raw nature energy. Tsunade deeply desired the war to end so she could use her new privileges as one of the Sunin and retire due to old age, and start looking for the source of that spike. Her very own adventure. She didn't even know what for. She only knew, her instincts, her heart deeply longed for anything that was produced by that spike of energy. Illogical, but it was the first and truest feeling she held after her love for her brother. It was precious. Tsunade played with a bottle of sake, her head lying on the table, half drunk as she did kissy faces at the photo of her cute lil bro. Suddenly the door flew wide. Tsunade! Jiraiya shrieked. What Jiraiya? Tsunade screamed in annoyance. He was the very last idiot she wanted to see this fine alcohol-filled evening. I won't go on a date with you. Now go. Jiraiya quieted down, his face serious. Tsunade blinked as a really bad feeling sneaked into her heart. Tsunade, I am sorry. It's Nawaka. Tsunade palled to ghost white and didn't even wait for him to finish, she rushed out of the room. Her heart, break and gut Rei couldn't help but smile at his observations during these 3 days as his mind swirled in giddy thoughts. We now have Mokuton. The raw nature chakra leads our earth and water nature chakra to form the tree. It is the known pinnacle of earth and water chakra manipulation and we can do it unconsciously. All we have to do is find out how our chakra does it and bam. Oh, Rei was very excited about finally having an elemental Keki Genkai holder advantage, alright. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you liked it, subscribe to my channel for more fan fictions like this and goodbye.